시청자 여러분 안녕하십니까? 전 세계 교회와 선교지 소식 전해드리는 CGN월드뉴스 정은지입니다. 첫 번째 소식, CBN에서 보내온 소식부터 전해드립니다. 12만 명의 아르메니아 소수민족과 크리스천들이 집단학살 위기에 놓였다며 인권단체들이 우려를 표했습니다. 아제르바이잔의 군사공격에 아르메니아인들이 자국을 탈출하고 있습니다. 수천 명의 아르메니아인들이 나고르노 카라바흐를 떠나는 영상과 사진이 공개되면서 인권단체들을 충격에 빠뜨렸습니다.
This is a recipe for mass atrocities.
국제기독연대의 조엘 벨드캠프는 아르메니아와 아제르바이잔 사이에 내륙 지역에 사는 사람들에게 최악의 때는 아직 오지 않았다며 우려합니다. 아제르바이잔 군대는 휴전 발표 직전에 공격을 감행했습니다. 불확실성은 여전히 큽니다.
This is being widely reported as a ceasefire. Many journalists, many observers seem to think that this means that the fighting is over, the violence is over, the danger is over. That is not true at all. This is the most dangerous moment right now.
벨드캠프는 아르메니아인들이 결국 항복한 것과 같기 때문에 그들에 대한 학대, 혼란, 폭력은 계속될 것이라고 말했습니다.
The government of the Republic of Artsakh surrendered to the invading forces of Azerbaijan. They agreed to disband all of their self-defense forces, to lay down their weapons, and to hold negotiations on quote-unquote reintegration into Azerbaijan.
벨드캠프는 12만 명의 아르메니아인들이 아직 점령 지역에 갇혀 있다며 염려했습니다.
There has been no electricity for most of the population of Nagorno-Karabakh for 43 hours now. That means that people have not been able to charge their cell phones or their computers. People aren't able to communicate about what's happening to them. Azerbaijani troops have occupied the country. They control most of the main roads. There are many, many villages that are cut off from the rest of Nagorno-Karabakh.
아르메니아와 아제르바이잔은 수십 년간 영토를 두고 치열한 전쟁을 벌였습니다. 지난 12월에는 아제르바이잔의 봉쇄로 식량, 의약품 등 생필품 공급이 차단되면서 긴장감이 다시 고조됐습니다.
This is an area of Armenia, Nagorno-Karabakh, that has been contested for many years, largely because when the Soviet Union took over Armenia, it carved it up with Azerbaijan and many of the other countries in strange ways. So there's a little area of Armenia. It has historically been filled with Armenians, Armenian cultures, the Christian faith.
3년 전 아제르바이잔은 나고르노 카라바흐를 점령하기 위해 공격했습니다. 글로벌 크리스천 릴리프의 데이비드 커리 회장은 아제르바이잔의 최근의 공격들은 그 목표를 이루기 위한 것이라고 봅니다.
They're intensifying this and trying to push out all of the ethnic Armenians and Christians within this region.
전문가들은 국제사회가 신속하게 나서지 않으면 세계에서 가장 오래된 기독교 국가 가운데 하나인 아르메니아가 두 번째 집단 학살을 당할 위기에 놓여 있다며 우려합니다.
How could we be so far away from our brothers and sisters? How can we be so ignorant about the first Christian nation, about the first nation in the 20th century to experience a real genocide? What is wrong with us?
벨드캠프는 전 세계 크리스천들에게 중보 기도를 요청하고 서구권 지도자들이 개입해 아르메니아인들의 생명을 구해야 한다고 촉구했습니다. 이어서 CBN의 척 홀튼 기자가 아르메니아와 관련해 자세한 소식 전해드립니다. 일각에서 제기되는 아르메니아인 집단학살 우려는 아제르바이잔의 끊임없는 위협에서 비롯됐습니다.
Accused of the genocide because the Azeris have said that they plan a genocide, and as a matter of fact, the president of Azerbaijan, Ilham Aliyev, said just recently in a speech that all of Armenian land is Azerbaijan, which is very interesting considering the fact that Azerbaijan didn't exist before about 1917, and Armenians have literally been on that land since the time of Noah.
아르메니아와 아제르바이잔 사이의 분쟁은 종교 전쟁으로 비추어지곤 하지만 그 이상의 의미가 있습니다.
There is more to it than just a religious conflict. It's basically when the Soviet Union was in control of that area, Stalin was very concerned about the Armenian population because they were very powerful and very patriotic and very homogenous. And so he specifically tried to break up the region by creating these little exclaves. There's actually 5 exclaves of Armenians inside Azerbaijan, and there's 5 exclaves inside Armenia that were mostly Azeri. Now, the Azeris are pretty much people from northern Iran, and there are still a lot of Azeris in Iran to this day. And the real concern here is that Azerbaijan is not going to stop by just taking over this one exclave. They're literally talking about taking all of Armenia. This is a tiny country of 2.5 million people, mostly Christians, and they're very concerned. They have very similar situation to what we see in Israel, where everywhere they look, they see enemies who want to destroy them. And so they are calling on the world to say, look, if you're standing for Ukraine being attacked by a foreign country, then you ought to be standing for Armenia as well.
아르메니아는 미국을 비롯한 서구권의 개입을 간절히 바라고 있지만 척 홀튼 기자는 미국이 나서기에는 복잡한 문제라고 설명했습니다.
This is a very complex issue because Armenia really only has one big brother in that region, and that's Russia. And of course, the United States doesn't want to ally with a country that's allied with Russia. But, and at the same time, we are ostensibly NATO allies with Turkey and Azerbaijan are good friends, and we're still giving military aid to Azerbaijan, which absolutely should not be happening. So the United States could definitely put a lot of pressure on Turkey and Azerbaijan to knock it off and to quit bothering Armenia. But when we actually sent some U.S. troops over there to do the first ever joint military drills with Armenia just last week, Russia got very upset about that, and some people say actually gave the green light to Azerbaijan for this attack. So if the more Armenia tries to cozy up to the United States, the more they're going to get attacked by Russia and Azerbaijan and even Turkey. Wow. And it's just a very complex and thorny issue, and unfortunately, Armenia doesn't have many good options right now.
아르메니아는 가장 오래된 기독교 국가 가운데 하나입니다. 아르메니아 크리스천들은 여전히 굳건합니다.
They became a Christian country in 301 AD, and they are still a very devout Christian country to this day. I've spent a lot of time over there, and so American Christians, if you stand for Israel, you should be standing for Armenia. There's just no two ways about that. And we need to pray and support our Christian brothers and sisters in that region and try to put pressure on our political, our Congress people to stand up and support them as well.
척 홀튼 기자는 이스라엘을 지지하는 크리스천들에게 아르메니아를 지지해 주기를 당부했습니다. 최근 몇 년간 고대 실로에서 성경 유적이 발견됐는데요. 한나가 아들을 달라고 기도한 곳이자 40년간 성막이 세워져 있었던 장소가 발굴됐습니다. 자세한 소식 전해드립니다. 발굴은 2019년에 시작돼 지금까지 이어지고 있습니다.
Well, in season 1, our hypotheses were just formulating. We thought that we had a monumental building up here from the pier to the tabernacle. We thought that this could be a gate complex because there was no glacis in this section. Since then, we've come way down, 5 meters or so, maybe 6 meters in some places. And so now we can see the various structures that are here, and indeed we can now say that this is very likely the gate that's referred to in the Bible. And that's pretty big stuff.
발굴단을 이끌고 있는 스카 스터플링 박사는 이 발견의 중요성을 이야기합니다.
Well, the Bible tells us that Eli is in the gate of Shiloh when he gets the news that the Ark of the Covenant has been captured, that his sons have been killed. He falls over backwards and dies in the gate. So it's a function that's mentioned in the Bible, so we were very curious if we would come across it.
실로는 엘리 제사장이 살고 죽었던 곳일 뿐만 아니라 여호수아가 12지파에게 약속의 땅을 분배했던 곳이며 한나가 아들을 달라고 기도했던 곳입니다. 한나의 아들은 선지자 사무엘이었습니다. 또 400년 동안 성막이 서 있었습니다.
This is where you came to connect with God. Jerusalem remains a pagan city for another 300 years. The ark is here, the tabernacle is here, and this is where you came to connect with God.
스터플링 박사는 이곳이 성전이 있었던 곳이라고 믿습니다.
Well, you know, I'm not ready to say I know for certain, but I'll tell you what we do have is a building that is matching the dimensions of the tabernacle. It's from the Iron One period, which is the tabernacle period of Eli and Samuel. And you're actually standing right now, Chris, on this wall right here. So this entire area is this massive monumental building, orients east-west, and it's divided on a 2-to-1 ratio like the tabernacle was.
스터플링 박사는 바로 이곳에 언약궤가 있었을 것으로 봅니다.
Well, the holy place and the most holy place.
Yeah.
So the Holy of Holies, if we're correct in our theory, would be right in here. This, between these walls, would be where the Ark of the Covenant was.
Can we go in?
Let's go. Come on. All
So
right.
what are we walking into right now?
This is the wall that would separate the holy from the most holy. Okay? So you're entering into the Holy of Holies. All right? So there's this big wall on your right. Down here you can see where we've reached the bottom. This is preserved to 2.1 meters, and this is floor level. So this whole area in here, about where we're standing, come on with me here. All right. You're probably standing where the Ark of the Covenant was. How does that suit you?
It makes me feel, well, profound, for one.
Well,
Yeah.
me too.
Yeah. How do you feel when you're here?
There's a sense of awe. I just have to tell you, professionally as an academic, I'm in awe. And then as an evangelical Christian, I'm in awe, you know, to have the privilege to be able to excavate a site like this. What I take from this is that God did something in history. He recorded it for us in the Bible. We have evidence of it here. One of the great things about our faith is that you can question it. You know, God's ego isn't bruised. People have questions, viewers do. That's honest, you know. Express those, and I would just invite people to look at that evidence. And if they've bought into the idea that the Bible's mythology or it's not historical, I would encourage them to look at what we're finding here at Shiloh, read the text, pray about it, decide for themselves.
And so this is where the Bible comes to life?
This is what we do. We don't just walk the Bible, we dig the Bible here at Ancient Shiloh. As we dig into the soil, we are literally seeing the evidence of what life was like in biblical times.
And nearby you also have a site of bones. Can we-
Well, I tell you what, we're in the bone business, Chris. Come on, I'll show you what it's all about.
Okay.
And this path is going to lead us to where the bone deposit is that we've been talking about. So the people working over here are doing something they'll never forget the rest of their lives. I mean, they are uncovering evidence of the sacrificial system. These were animals that brought expiation. I mean, it brought about the forgiveness of sin for people as they connected with God in this manner. So you'll see it for yourself. The pottery and the bones, they tell an unmistakable story that matches what we read in the biblical text. This entire area underneath our feet, Chris, this is unexcavated. Underneath your feet and my feet is about this much of solid bone waiting to be excavated. Bone on top of bone on top of bone. And we have microstratigraphy in this area so we can see that the deposition is laid down over a long period of time, just like the Bible says.
And what kind of bones would we find here?
Sheep, goat, cattle, and disproportionately from the right side of the animal. It's like just this morning, we're seeing disproportionate jawbones from the right side as opposed to the left.
You described it before, but again, why is the right side so significant?
Well, the priests are the ones who live here, and Leviticus 7 tells us that the right side of the animal is the priest's portion. So I can't make this stuff up, you know? You got 100,000 bones and they're disproportionate. Give me another explanation. Just happens to coordinate with what the Bible says.
나팔 소리가 울리고 작업 시간이 끝났음을 알립니다. 올해의 작업은 끝났지만 앞으로 몇 년간 계속해서 발굴이 이어질 예정입니다. CGN 월드뉴스는 새로운 시대에 변치 않는 복음을 전하며 세상에 바로 서고자 하는 그리스도인들의 눈이 되겠습니다. 시청해 주셔서 감사드립니다.